let's get into some worldwide wrestling entertainment news. On this podcast, we cover sports, music, entertainment, and a lot of people know I'm a big wrestling fan. And wrestling is going through an interesting time right now. WWE is going through an interesting time. So yesterday, they celebrated the 1,000th episode of Smackdown, which is a huge, huge deal because Smackdown started in 1999. So we're talking almost 20 years of the show being on the air. And Smackdown came at a time when WWE was red hot in the Attitude Era competition with WCW. And, I'm not going to go so much into, the actual show and the gimmicks and all that stuff, but I do want to talk about the legacy of SmackDown and where WWE is going on right now with their upcoming pay-per-view in Saudi Arabia. So SmackDown 1000, just a quick recap. So, the show started off in 1999 based off The Rock, Dwayne Johnson's catchphrase, laying the SmackDown. WWE literally started a show based off one of The Rock's catchphrases because The Rock was just red hot at the time. It was The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I thought the show, it was a 2-hour show as usual. I thought the show was okay. I thought that they could have done better. I thought that they could have done less matches and I think more cameos of yesteryear people coming back for a celebration. I felt that would have been more beneficial. Unfortunately, they, when you come with these memorial type of shows, they still have to push the current storylines, which right now is kind of meh for me. I'm more of an NXT guy myself. But regardless, they showed a lot of scenes and a lot of clips of picture clips of stuff that happened throughout the years. When John Cena first started out in the wrestling scene, doing his blue chip gimmick, and then he became Mr. Thuganomics, and then now he's the John Cena that we all see and recognize today. As a wrestling fan, I've always enjoyed SmackDown and Raw as well, even though the current product sometimes leaves a little bit to be desired. For this episode, I was disappointed that a few people weren't there, and I'm going to give my reasons why. First, The Rock. The WWE made this show based off The Rock's catchphrase, and all that we got was just a tweet by The Rock. Now, don't get me wrong. I know The Rock is a busy man. I always joke with my girlfriend, I don't know who's more busier in the world, Kevin Hart or The Rock. Because those two, you're always seeing them on the go, always working on some new project. Listen, they're on the grind, they're hustling, they're trying to get money. I don't blame them at all. And when The Rock does come back, it's always a special occasion because The Rock doesn't have to give credit to wrestling at all. I mean, for a big-time Hollywood A-list star, he always gives love to the WWE fans. He always says, my home is wrestling. I mean, for those who don't know about Dwayne Johnson, maybe non-wrestling fans, let me give you a little tip, little tip on him. This guy, he came from a wrestling family. His father, Rocky Johnson, his grandfather, I hope I'm getting this right, Chief Peter Maivia. I mean, I hope I'm getting that right, but he does come from a famous Samoan wrestling family. He's related to Roman Reigns, Nia Jax, the Usos, Rikishi. There's all a big wrestling bloodline over there. So he started out in wrestling, and now he transitioned to Hollywood. Now he's one of the biggest stars you see, and he to be honest, if he keeps going the way he's going, he can do no wrong. Honestly, The Rock is just a good-natured person. But I was very disappointed that The Rock didn't show up, or at least maybe make a video camera on the Titantron live showing his love for the fans because the show was based off of him. So I was a little disappointed by that. Another person that I'm disappointed with is John Cena. I mean, I always had a love-hate relationship with John Cena. When WWE was putting him as the main guy at the beginning, I thought it was interesting. And then towards the middle of his career, I hated it because they would shove John Cena down our faces. But now as he's transitioning to Hollywood, just like The Rock is doing, you miss the guy a little bit. And you reflect and you look back and you're like, holy crap, this guy did carry the WWE for a lot of years, especially at times when the WWE started to get more kid-friendly. A lot of adult fans were turning away. And, that guy put the company on his back for a lot of years. And you have to give credit to that guy. So he did a little video package, honoring SmackDown. I thought it would have been nice for him to show up for a little bit just because he was in a recent pay-per-view show in Australia. I think it would have been nice for him to show his face because he was one of the people that I felt made SmackDown what it is today, honestly. And then another person who obviously is no longer with us, but I felt was a big part of SmackDown, was Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero, he is in my top 10 favorite wrestlers of all time. Whether he was a good guy or even a better bad guy, this guy could do it all. He was phenomenal. He was really phenomenal. And obviously, Eddie Guerrero, he passed away in a hotel room. I think it's been a decade ago. He's very, very missed just because the storylines that he was involved with. I remember one storyline he was involved with Rey Mysterio, in which him and Rey Mysterio were best friends, and then they did the storyline of the custody of Rey Mysterio's son. Obviously, this was a storyline. This was not real life, but he was just a great villain and even a funny baby face. He's just a guy that I wish he was around in the present day for us to celebrate him, because he was just such a funny and good person too. Very good person. Very loved backstage, loved by the fans. So I felt heartbroken that Eddie Guerrero wasn't there. And that and also that they didn't really do much of a video package to celebrate Eddie Guerrero. I was a little disappointed too. Yeah, they brought back his wife Vicky Guerrero, who was a character for a few years in WWE, but I felt like they should have done more moments celebrating Eddie Guerrero. So those were the three main people that I felt, oh man, they should have been there. That would have made this 2 hours, 1,000 episodes very special. But however, it was good to see some people who did come back. Rey Mysterio comes back. He's one of the most famous lucha libre Mexican lucha libre wrestlers in the world. Most famous Mexican wrestler in the world. Rey Mysterio, he's back with the company. I think he's going to do a part-time thing. He was the ultimate underdog because he was a small guy doing the lucha libre style, but he won over so many fans. He's just a great asset in wrestling. He's just a great asset in wrestling for the business in general. So I'm glad that he came back for his first match against Nakamura, and that was a good match as well. So it was good to see him. It was good to see, obviously, Jeff Hardy's back with the company. He was a big part of SmackDown as well. But I think, and Edge came back. Edge, this guy started out with the Brood, and then he formed the famous tag team of Edge and Christian, which to me, they are in my top 10, maybe top 5 best tag teams of all time. And they're just very charismatic, very funny, very entertaining. They are missed. They have a podcast of their own, which is entertaining. But it was good to see Edge come back and kind of do his rated R show with Becky Lynch and Charlotte. Do a little segment there. I thought the highlight of the night for me was Evolution's promo. Evolution is a stable that consisted of Triple H, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, which many of you see all over the place. And for those who don't know about Ric Flair, hip hop rappers love Ric Flair. Ric Flair is the epitome of what a lot of young rappers want to be, and were the inspiration for how they look today with the jewelry, the flossiness, the style, the profile. Ric Flair was doing all that glossy hip hop stuff before it became mainstream. So Ric Flair has a lot of love. Actually, there's a video of Migos with Ric Flair drip. in there. That's not all amigos, but Ric Flair's in there. Snoop Dogg was Ric Flair too. So Ric Flair was obviously an evolution. You have Randy Orton, who is a very notable name. Son of Cowboy Bob Orton. He's been around. Randy Orton's been around for a long time. Second generation superstar. Had a pretty good career. Had a very good career. And then obviously you had Dave Bautista, who was one of my favorite characters in the new era. So they had the Attitude Era, which was in the 90s, and then afterwards was the Ruthless Aggression Era, which I'll talk about a little bit more. But Dave Bautista, he started out as grew up poor, Washington D.C., had a fighting claw for his way. I mean, he was a bouncer for many years, and then he came in as a rookie in WWE and joined up with Evolution and became a mainstream star. He's a very cool guy. Actually, for those who don't know about Dave Bautista, he's actually in the Avengers series. So, again, another movie star that's associated with WWE. And I love the Evolution promo because, you saw the faction, you saw the love that they do have for each other, even though I'm sure there's some tension back and forth, especially between Triple H and Dave Bautista, as shown in the promo. You gotta watch the segment on YouTube. But it was pretty cool to see all four of them in the ring, giving hugs, talking about their legacies and each other and how much fun they had together. And it made me reminisce to a time where I really loved WWE, because to me, wrestling entertainment, it's all about the characters and the storylines. That's how it's always going to be for the WWE. You want to bring in the fans, you got to make your storylines entertaining. You got to make your characters entertaining. That's what wrestling fans love. That's what wrestling fans love. And Evolution had amazing characters. They just had amazing characters. For me personally, I was looking back at some of the old clips, and a lot of them were funny. A lot of them reminiscent of the good times when I was growing up, and I was a very big time fan of the WWE. And this is a hot take for a lot of wrestling fans who listen to my podcast, but I personally feel that Smackdown is actually known for the Ruthless Aggression era than the Attitude Era. And the Ruthless Aggression Era, I felt, maybe I might be inaccurate, but I felt that was from like 2003 to maybe 2009, 10 a little bit. I felt the Ruthless Aggression Era is when you really got the premiere of the Ruthless Aggression, the stars. And what I mean is the storylines featured John Cena, Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, Batista, Rey Mysterio, The Undertaker, Jeff Hardy. I felt that SmackDown was more known for that era because I felt that's where some of the best storylines were. While Raw on Mondays was more for the Attitude Era, where it was like Austin, The Rock, Taker, Mankind, Triple H, DX. I could go on and on. But I really enjoyed SmackDown 1000. I recommend that wrestling fans, if you get a chance this weekend, check it out, see some segments. Overall, I thought it was a quality show. I did feel that it was rushed. I mean, especially like The Undertaker coming out with 2 minutes left to say one catchphrase and go back. I felt that was dumb. I felt that was not really needed. And maybe they should have lessened the matches to bring more people out to celebrate this occasion. Now, I want to get into the latest controversy that WWE has right now, because even though, yes, WWE focuses on wrestling, but it is a publicly traded company that's actually doing quite well right now. The stock has been going up pretty good. It's been going up like crazy the past few months, as has other stocks. Lately, the stock market is kind of down right now with the volatility of the interest rates and all that stuff. But regardless, WWE has an upcoming pay-per-view in early November called the Crown Jewel pay-per-view in Saudi Arabia. And there's big controversy right now with the WWE doing this show, because recently there's a Washington Post journalist that is missing. I'm going to butcher his name, but please forgive me. I think his name is Kahagi. Anyway, so this guy, I'm gonna call him Ka for short, just to move things along. Kahagi, whatever. He is a firm critic of the Saudi royal family. He's made some stuff publicly about them, and recently he was, I think, visiting Turkey or something like that, and he was lured into the Saudi Arabia, not embassy but consulate, whatever, and he's been missing ever since. A lot of people fear that this guy, that there was a hit on him and that he got killed. There's actually some audio that came out today that shows him being tortured, and some people think he was being dismembered, and that led to his death. Sorry to be graphic, but this is the news. We got to cover it. So there's a lot of people pissed right now. There's a lot of countries that are pissed right now because the fact that Saudi Arabia, the rumor is that Saudi Arabia, especially the royal family, sent people to go after this journalist just to pretty much silence him, torture him, and then it ended up going around and they killed the guy on Turkey's soil. So Turkey's not happy about it. The United States is not happy about it. You got a lot of congressmen that are pissed off about this. Lindsey Graham wants to sanction the hell out of them. He wants to go after these guys. It's so bad that you actually have Republicans and Democrats actually agreeing on an issue. For the first time in a long time, actually agreeing on an issue, which is we have to go after Saudi Arabia for this. This is not right. Now, what President Trump is saying, who knows? He's saying that, he's denying it, but I think he may change his mind by the internal pressure of his administration to go after Saudi Arabia for this. You have the UK, France, Germany, they're all condemning it. They want to put some sanctions towards Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is denying this, of course, and trying to help in the investigation, but they said that if there's sanctions because of this, they'll retaliate. So this actually, even though I'm going to talk about WWE, but this actually could be a big issue in the world right now, because obviously Saudi Arabia produces a lot of the world's oil. So there's sanctions back and forth between everyone. The oil prices can spike. That can affect energy costs, the whole nine. So I think this is a story that, people should be paying attention to because it is getting major news media. How the WWE is tied into this, you're asking. So they have this show coming up, I believe the first weekend of November, called Crown Jewel. And it's a big deal for WWE because they signed a $450 million deal with Saudi Arabia for the next 10 years to do shows. I think maybe a couple months ago, they did a show in Saudi Arabia, and they're rushing to go right back because it was such a good turnout. They got good publicity in Saudi Arabia. The fans really liked it. The royal family really liked it. So they're rushing to go right back to do the pay-per-view. A weekend after they're doing the first ever all women's pay-per-view, Evolution, the next weekend they're gonna go to Saudi Arabia. It's kind of funny how Saudi Arabia, how WWE works, because they're taking money from a country that clearly oppresses women, but the weekend before they're gonna do the all women's pay-per-view to honor women. So WWE's slick. Sometimes with WWE, fans can see through the bullshit because they tried so hard recently to have this good public image, because I know what the Attitude Era, as some fans remember, there's a lot of raunchiness. Stone Cold was cursing and drinking beer on TV, doing the middle finger. You had the women who are pretty much down to their bra and panties like all the time. You had people getting hit with steel chairs, so it was violence, cursing, lewdness, nudity, sexuality. And so WWE, after talking with some of the sponsors, they had to kind of shift to a more family-friendly product, which is what you see today. And I think is one of the reasons why the mainstream product of Raw and SmackDown is not that great storyline-wise, is because they have to kind of censor themselves to get the sponsorship money. It sucks as a fan, but I do understand as a business student, that, hey, sometimes businesses have to do what they have to do to get the dollar to stay afloat. And that's why I'm a little worried for WWE on how they make this decision. They're still keeping up with the good public image. They've been partnering up with the Susan G. Komen for breast cancer. They've been doing that campaign. They've been doing Connor's Cure, which is helps a lot of sick kids. And every year they have they honor a sick person, a kid who's sick, with the Warrior Award at their Hall of Fame. So they're always doing philanthropy. They're always trying to do good marketing. They're trying to be known as the family-friendly show as much as possible. However, it's very hard to have this goodwill, family-friendly product if you're going overseas and doing a show in which half the population can't speak or do anything because they're being oppressed because of the law. And then you have this controversy with the journalists, which can open a big can of worms. So lately, they've been facing a lot of public backlash. News channels all over are kind of criticizing the WWE. The WWE's actually trying to be kind of slick. What they did is they removed Saudi Arabia from the website, and they're just saying Crown Jewel for now. Because I think their game plan, to be honest, is that they're secretly going to kind of hold out. They're going to kind of hold out a little bit until maybe this blows over, and then do the show in Saudi Arabia, collect the check, and come home. Even though there's rumors that a lot of the wrestlers backstage don't want to go, a lot of the production crew don't want to go, because a lot of them are scared right now. They're scared because this journalist just got chopped up, essentially. And they're going to go to a country in which someone that was working in America got dismembered. So it's some crazy times in the WWE. I don't know what they do. And this kind of reminds me of a lot of these artists who go and do like private concerts for dictators, and they take the paycheck. Like, there's been some artists who have been criticized before for like singing in front of a famous dictator at their like palace or whatever. And people criticize them. But at the end of the day, for a lot of these artists and companies, it is about the money. That's the world we live in, unfortunately. And, I can see WWE trying to get the bag. I mean, they got a 10-year, $450 million deal that they have right now. They got another couple million coming in with their new Fox deal for 2019. So WWE is floating out some good cash, and they want to keep it going. And the fact that with these pay-per-views, they're bringing back all the old timers, and they're paying them extra money too. I mean, Shawn Michaels has come out of retirement 10 years. He's come out of retirement because Saudi Arabia is offering $5 million just to see Shawn Michaels wrestle for like 5 minutes. So how do you not take that money if you're the talent? That's a quick payday. Or for WWE, that's a quick payday. They do one show, boom, they get a huge cash flow. They probably will make more in that Saudi Arabia show than they probably make in a month in the States. And so it's tough. And I think they're gonna go through with it, just because unless the US government stops the WWE from doing business overseas, the WWE, I think, is going to go for the cash. Because again, they're a publicly traded company. And it's very hard on a conference call to tell shareholders during your earnings report or whatever that we decided not to go after $500 million because we didn't feel it was right. Some companies are willing to do that. I don't know that he's one of those companies. But it is much easier to say, hey, we couldn't do it because the U.S. government wouldn't let us do it. And obviously, we have to listen to the government. So I think it's going to boil down to, I know some people are saying morally it should not happen. It shouldn't be the case. But I see that he's doing the show in Saudi Arabia, unless there's more news about the journalists and it gets to the point where President Trump has to do something about it, and President Trump and Congress actually all agree, hey, no companies do business with Saudi Arabia. We're putting sanctions on them. Then he will have to make another move. Maybe they do the show in Australia or in another country. Obviously it's not the Saudi Arabia contract, but then he could say, hey, listen, we got to follow what our country's saying. So I think that we'll see what happens with this latest controversy. I think this is the hot thing right now with the journalists, and a lot in the wrestling community. People are on pins and needles waiting to see what happens with WWE. Anyway, this has been another episode of the Just My Take podcast. I appreciate you listening to this episode. It's a shorter episode, but I feel two great topics: music, streaming, wrestling. Anyway, before we, I just want to let you know, keep listening to the show, subscribe, listen, share with your friends. Please, please, please share with your friends. Let them know about the show. My show is now on YouTube as well. Okay, so I'm dropping the audio version, the podcast version on Thursday mornings, and then Thursday evening I'm gonna upload it on the YouTube channel, the Just My Take podcast YouTube channel, where you can check it out. Leave your comments on either one: YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud if you want as well. Show me love. Follow me on Instagram, Just My Take podcast. Follow the page. Lately I've been sending a lot of messages to people, thanking them for following me. Follow me on Just My Take podcast on Instagram. You can also follow my personal Instagram at DexPC5. That is DEXPC5. You can also follow DexPC5 on Twitter as well. Check it out. Let me know. Let's interact. Let's have a good time discussing these topics. And remember, people, at the end of the day, all right, just remember, whether you agree or disagree, it's just my take. Peace.